I felt invincible. I felt nothing could touch me. I was teaching at 3 universities around the world, traveling. I was managing Destiny's Child, Beyoncé, Solange, Kelly, Michelle individually. On the record label side, at the same time that I had Destiny's Child and Kelly and Beyonce and Solange, I had Chaka Khan and the OJs and De La Soul and Earth, Wind and Fire and Sunshine Anderson. And then on the management side, I bought 5 management companies, young black men, and they had Eve, they had Mary J. Blige, D12 with Eminem, Mary, the gospel group. I can't even remember all of them. Nelly was one of the management clients. And then at the same time, if that wasn't enough, I started and put together the largest, me and my team, the largest gospel label in the world. I was doing way too much and actually imploded, lost a lot, lost family, lost friends, lost respect, and I had to stop. I met this amazing woman that came into my life, Gina, and then 6 years ago, and I'm just wearing a t-shirt, taking it off, and I see these red dots. I thought these was just, t-shirts that she had just gotten, and sometimes they have threads in different colors, I don't know. And she said, that's interesting because on your side of the bed for the last couple of nights, and mornings actually, when she would change the sheets, she said on my side were these dots of red blood, it looked like. Well, I had an experience at Xerox Medical, a lot of training, and we had training on male breast cancer. And so I called my doctor, who I have much respect for. I've been with him for years, one of the best in the industry in Houston. And I said, Doc, I need to get a mammogram. And he kind of laughed it off, like, you're the first man in 40 years in my history of being a doctor that's asked for a mammogram. And because we're friends, I said, no, I'm not quite asking for a mammogram. I want to get a mammogram. I looked on the screen and I changed the pages and I knew myself, I saw it. I mean, those years of training allowed me to know that's what it is. And then you look at things like family history. My grandmother's sister had breast cancer. My mother's only sister died of breast cancer. My aunt, who I just referred to, 2 of her daughters died of breast cancer. So that also gave me just an indication, being in the medical field for 20 years, that I had high probability there. When I was diagnosed with male breast cancer, it's frightening to hear those words, you have cancer. Those are 3 really frightening words. For me, I went into action to build a team. I called my very good friend from American Heart Association, Nancy Brown. Gave her all the information. And Nancy immediately recommended for me Susan Domchek at the University of Pennsylvania. Dr. Domchek is renowned as one of the top oncologists in the world. So I had the best surgeon, the best general practitioner, Nancy Brown on the team, Susan Domchek on the team. So I had a really great team. My surgeon said there was one test that he wanted to do. And he said, you do all these pre-op examinations. He said, I'll just wait until surgery. It's something that you don't have to be concerned about. And I have to say, I kind of looked at him and said to myself, man, I just got diagnosed with something that only 1% of men get. And you're telling me to be okay, I'm gonna be okay when I'm in this 1% club. After surgery, I get a call 3 days later, please come to my office. And when you get a call from your surgeon and asks you to come to his office, his or her office, that's not a good sign. So I get there, and the first thing, he's extremely apologetic. And I'm thinking, oh man, what happened here? And he said, that test I told you about, well, unfortunately, it didn't come out well. Your BRCA2 variant. And I'm like, what does that mean? You have a genetic mutation. Your XY chromosomes from your father and mother went array, one of them. And so that means that you have a higher risk of prostate cancer, which we'll talk more about, melanoma, pancreatic cancer, and male breast cancer. So that was the process for me. The great thing is that we found it stage 1A, and in cancer, as you know, it's stages of 1, 2, 3, and 4. Radiation therapy, chemotherapy, that is really hard on the system, hard on the body. Versus stage 1 or stage 1A, I took 1 pill a day for 5 years, tamoxifen, and I had some reactions to it, very minor, but that's why I'm always talking about early detection, because 1 in 8 women in their lifetime will get breast cancer. 1 in 8 men in our lifetime will get prostate cancer, are diagnosed with it. So finding it early and what happens between stage 1 and stage 4 in the treatment is quite different. So I want to talk to the men for a minute. I'm going to make you maybe a little uncomfortable. Remember I said 1 in 8 men in their lifetime, in our lifetime, will be diagnosed with prostate cancer. 1 in 8. Now I'm not talking about the other cancers, but prostate for men is the second largest cancer concern for men. Men, we just don't like to go to the doctor. And let me be more specific now. I'm going to talk to black men because we even have a higher risk of mortality. Our death rate is even higher than our white counterparts because we're even later going to the doctor. And a lot for black men, and I'll stay on black men for a minute, is a cultural thing, I think, my perspective, that can you imagine doing slavery? A slave saying to a slave master, master, I don't feel good today. I don't feel good today. I don't think I should work. So I say that in a sarcastic manner, but in reality, we've been conditioned since slavery. I think also men overall, we just put it off. We procrastinate. I think there's a fear of needles that we never want to say. Like, we're tough guys, like how could we be frightened of a needle? We have to take better care of ourselves. But I say that also just in general when we talk about health and wellness. What does it take out of a day to go and get an exam? You know, you get up, you go, might have some parking issues, you might have to wait for a few minutes in the office, doctor's office, you might have to take a x-ray, mammogram, MRI. But in total, we're talking 5 or 6 hours out of your day once a year to save your life. I don't know, I just think your life is worth that. I ask women to help men. We need your help in making sure that we go to the doctor. And I think the return on that investment, in business, we talk about ROI, return on investment. And in health and wellness, that return on investment is saving your life. And the selfish part of it is stage 1, 2, 3, 4. Stage 4, you get a lot of family members involved that have become caretakers in some examples, that disrupts a whole family's life, a whole community's life. So it's so important, early detection is so important to go and I just read yesterday, there's companies now that come to your home and give blood tests. You can mail off a genetic test, saliva sample. They'll mail it back to you. They make all of this so much easier. You can now get blood tests that tell you 50 types of cancers. That's just all sorts of way to be proactive when it comes to cancer care. So when I was diagnosed with male breast cancer, um, I was 38 pounds, because I weighed myself today, heavier than I am. I still have 10 more pounds to go, but I've lost 38 pounds. And why? Because I Googled cancer and found and talked to others that obesity that's where cancer lives. Cancer loves obesity. And I realized I was obese. I had to lose weight. And what I did was I went on a mission to change my diet. I was eating a lot of fatty food, fried foods. I don't do that anymore. Vegetables, fruit, occasionally fish and chicken. I exercise. I travel a lot, but I find the time to exercise. I at least 3 to 4 times a week. I walk 2 miles, and I walk it very fast. I can do 2 miles in 40 minutes, and that's moving. And so I do that. But other things is that I look out the window. I call it looking out the window. I'm fortunate to have a trail behind our home. There's another trail next to the ocean that I walk. And it gives me not just a physical fitness, it gives me the peace of mind. It helps me relieve stress. Stress is another challenge for any disease. So relieving myself of stress and looking out the window and looking at sunsets. I never looked at sunsets. Those are the changes in my life now. The exercise, the spiritual part of it, the diet, laughter. But where I was going is last week I actually took a sheet of paper, wrote down all the things I was doing, and I actually lined through 75% of the things that I were projects working on, just projects. I just can't do those anymore. I narrowed it down to 4 or 5 projects. I have this weak spot that I always trying to help people, but I can't help everybody anymore. And it's making my life unmanageable trying to help everybody else. Now I realize when I need to just be still and say, I can't do it anymore. And I'm at that point in my life now that I can say, stop. 6 months prior to me being diagnosed, my wife's sister died of breast cancer. I was diagnosed in June. She passed January of that year. So you can only imagine the stress factor as a family and my wife had, and then a husband gets diagnosed with male breast cancer 6 months later. But something even more challenging happened. 6 months after I was diagnosed with male breast cancer, this thing called COVID hit America. So imagine now, I'm recovering and I'm so frightful because of COVID. I'm taking my temperature 12, 13 times a day. I have this oxygen meter on my finger. I won't let anybody come in, to the point I'm having anxiety attacks, and I hadn't had those in 20 years. I realized that something was going wrong, and I called my therapist, who I had spoken with for years, and I explained what was going on, and we went through sessions. And that's when he shared with me that I had not really dealt with the fear of dying. I hadn't dealt with that. And so we began to deal with that, the fear of dying. And then he shared with me that when there are things like COVID, these things that happen, these catastrophes that happen, that anything that is unresolved in our lives, in my case, what was unresolved was my fear of dying from cancer. Anything unresolved in a crisis is magnified 25 times. So that helped me to understand and to really move through COVID, having cancer, because that was difficult, having going through treatment and all at the same time. What I look forward to in the future, guys, I'm a proud grandfather with 4 grandkids. My 20-year-old grandson, gosh, 20-year-old grandson, wow, Jules. So proud of Jules. He, in 1 year and a half, he's one of the top male models in the world. Oh, I'm so proud of Jules. And then, I look at what Blue Ivy has done. And on the last 2 tours, she's gone from 0 to 100. It's still going 100 miles an hour growth in the entertainment industry. And then I look at my other 2, the twins, Rumi and Sir. We'll hear from them soon. So in the future, I hope to spend more time with grandkids as they're getting older. For me in the future is to continue to help motivate, educate, and inspire. Those are the 3 words that I use, that I am passionate about: education, motivating, and inspiring people. And I do that in a more succinct, clear way, and a more visual way in the future, with a number of projects in film and TV and short movies, and that's what I want to do, is really connect with people as technology is changing, and talk about tough dialogue, talk about health and wellness, talk about racism, talk about culture, talk about entrepreneurship, things that I'm fortunate to be 3rd generation entrepreneur, and to tell my story of growing up in Alabama and what those challenges were, my corporate life, my married life, my family life, my music life. I just want to share life, not just the good things, but also share some of the mistakes, some of the failures, because I really believe that mistakes are opportunities for us in life. We don't view them as opportunities. I do. Opportunities for us to even become better when we make a mistake or fail. I look forward to continual good health. When you're 73, you feel your body begin to decline, but I stay active. I stay informed, and I want to continue to stay active and informed. Old basketball player with 7 basketball injuries. They kind of catch up with you sometimes when you're bad weather, arthritis, jogging. But I can deal with that. I can deal with that. The pure beauty of life is that we are very fragile people. I always say that. Just as people, we're fragile. As humans, we're fragile. But the beauty is knowing that we can accept and change the fragility that comes along with that. And I've learned how over the years to be more accepting, to be more understanding and aware of changes around me.